It took time to create Bata maples from the ground up, building the sugar shack, installing miles of pipeline, and refining the process of making the best syrup possible.
Hi, Joey Only here from Interior Weather and Wilderness Watchers, British Columbia, and I'm talking with my uncle Frank Haveman, who's a master maple syrup producer in Batawa, Ontario. And why is this relevant to the British Columbia interior? Well, there is quite a few people here who make birch syrup. And I guess I'll start by asking you, what would be the difference between birch syrup and maple syrup? And what makes the sugar maple so special?
Well, I'll start with the sugar maple. It happens to be a tree that has a fairly high sugar content in its sap, higher than birch sap. So yeah, the flavor of it is sweeter. I think I don't have much experience with birch sap, but I know that maple sap is quite sweet. Mine, I tested it the other day, is about 2% sugar content. So that means, yeah, a little bit less boiling is required for maple sap as compared to birch sap. So the ratio for maple sap is about 40-1. So 40 liters of sap makes 1 liter of syrup. So I always say I have to boil 39 liters away, and then I'm left with 1 liter of syrup.
I think one of the things with the birch tree too is it doesn't produce as much sap.
No. Yeah.
Right. So there's also specific weather conditions you have there. And what's it been like this week? And how have you started running off yet?
Yeah, last week, actually a week and a half ago, we tapped. Last week, we had a few good runs. What's required is that the weather has to be below zero at night and then above zero during the day. So we had a few of those days last week. So we managed now so far to make 130 liters of syrup in the past week. Right now, we're in a little bit of a cold spell. So the last 3 days has been no run, so no boiling.
So you really have to be in tune with the weather in order to make this work. And you don't have a small operation. You have over 500 trees now, eh?
Yeah, relatively speaking, it's small by some standard, but I'm now up to 1,200 taps. Compared to like in Quebec, sometimes where there are like 20,000, I'm small. But most operations, the backyard operations are smaller than mine.
Well, certainly, I recall you when I was very young in the original syrup shack on the farm. I have vivid memories of spending time in the syrup shack, and I didn't get to know you very well as when we were young because you spent so much time in Holland and in Germany teaching the children of Canadian Forces members. So, I have just these memories of like you getting on the Boeing 707 at the tarmac in Trenton and flying off and just, the sound of the engines and watching you walk up the stairs there. Right. And one, definitely being in the syrup shack. And so when did you start doing this? It was obviously very small and you're not the only one in our family who likes to make maple syrup.
Yeah, I think, well, I started the first tree I ever tapped, I was 17 years old, and just, I experimented around, and then for a number of years I didn't tap, firstly because I was living in Germany, as you said, but then when the kids grew up, I started doing it a little bit small, operations, 10 or 12 buckets. And then about 10 years ago, I tapped about 400 trees, and then 5 years ago, I expanded to 1,200 and built a new sap shack. So now we're, a little bit more serious about what we're doing.
That new sap shack wasn't there last time I was at the farm, which was 2015. So
yeah,
just missed the beginning of this one. It's been so long since I've been able to be home because of being a dad and just my life here. But that was a good memory in itself. You, cousin Dean, and I, and your old shack there. Boiling off. So how much maple syrup do you expect to produce this year, but by the time you're done?
Well, it's totally weather dependent. 1 year I was finished on March the 11th. Looks like it's going to last longer this year. So that was kind of a low production year. This year, yeah, if I can get 12 or 1,400 liters, I'll be happy. But hopefully we'll get more than that.
That's a lot of maple syrup. So when you first started doing this, you might have thought yourself, like, I must be a little crazy doing this, but you have this sort of hobby and a passion and you kind of dig into it. And I feel like that's the way of my, so many of my projects now. They seem crazy at the time, but they're becoming more and more successful. And you wonder about that. you know, when you first start, people must think, you know, okay. I know my one friend, Brian, I stopped at his house in Winlaw, BC one year, and he said, yeah, I'm going to start a dog business. I'm just going to sit here at the property on the river and watch people's dogs and smoke and eat and have a good life. And I was like, sure, Brian, because he used to run this redfish grill that burned down in Nelson, and they had nothing to do after that, right? And then I come back 2 years later, and there's 18 dogs running around. He's looking, you know, he's making $50 or $30 a day off each dog he's babysitting, and sitting on his. And then he's telling me, I think I'm going to start a salt business. And I'm like, sure, Brian. And then sure enough, he starts this salt blends company that is just, the products are awesome, right? So the sort of the entrepreneurial slash the spirit of, I just want to do what I want to do. So talk to me about the name Bata Sugar Maples, and you know, why the name Bata, for example. First of all, I mean, people who don't know our family history coming over to Canada in the 50s, tell them about why Bata Sugar is just the best name for the
Well, first of all, we live on Bata Road, and Bata Road is named Bata Road because in 1939, a Czechoslovakian guy by the name of Thomas Bata came from which is what is now Czechia, and he brought over with him a number of workers. He had a shoe plant in Czechia, in Zlin, Czechia, and then the writing was on the wall with the war coming on that it was going to be taken from him. So he picked up everything and came to Batawa. He just randomly picked this spot and built a factory here, and built a little community here. And he and his wife lived in Canada until just a few years ago, and they both passed away. So then I thought, yeah, Bata Maple Sugar Bush. To me, it's relevant because I worked at Bata as a student. Most of my siblings worked at Bata at the factory, at the shoe factory.
It was the first place I ever lived was Batawa.
Right, you lived in Bata. I remember that. And one of those, when Thomas Bata came over, he built like a number of wartime houses, and you lived in one of those. And they're now gone, and they're actually in the process of building new homes right there. But yeah, when I thought of the idea, I contacted Mrs. Bata, who was in her 80s at the time, and sometimes
Sonia.
Sonia, and sometimes she's particular about how her name is used. But when I pitched the idea to her, she was quite excited about it. So that was
and what people might not realize is their house is your next door neighbor, and it overlooks our family farm.
Right. Yep.
Most of us Havenmans have been inside that house, whether we were invited in or just walked in for a peek.
Yeah, right. Not me.
No.
On the outside, never on the inside.
Gary and I went in a couple times and sat in the comfy chairs when we were kids. You know, it was like the 80s. They left it unlocked, this weird psychedelic mansion on the hill. Yeah, and Opa would always have the tractor up there or this or that. So we had, sneak up there, spend an afternoon sitting on his couches, chilling out and pretending we were rich.
News to me, Joe. I didn't know that. I'll have to talk to my brother about that one.
So that's just like, I've often told people if there's a weird story in my life, it's, if anything can happen, it's probably going to happen to me. And I try to explain to people just how bizarre my life is. And then they don't really understand, like, oh, your grandfather bought his farm off Tom Bata. And so Opa worked there for 40 years and great place, great name for your company. So the contest, BizQuest, you produced this video, a couple videos of your farm, and we got some clips that we've thrown in here. Tell me about the BizQuest contest and what it is and what it means.
Yeah, so in January, I received an email from Trendbell, which is a local business development institution, and they decided to run a small business contest. 3 categories, new businesses, that category. And so they sent that out. So it happened to be at the time that we had some guests here from a couple. He was from New Zealand, she was from France. We often have workers from overseas that stay in our house, and they help us with the maple syrup production. Anyway, they were into video production. So I just said to them, would you be interested in in creating something, and they were all over it. So yeah, that's how it happened. And then yeah, now we submitted it, and now it's at the voting stage. So we need to get a ton of votes.
Us videographers, I mean, especially right now, I decided to take this new foray maybe out of being a musician and back into being, like, I used to be a radio man, back into being a content producer. But at this time of the year and in this COVID crisis, it's actually quite hard to keep coming up with fresh stuff all the time, right? So, if you bump into a videographer and pitch an idea to them, they're probably going to be all over it. For me, it's been wanting to produce content, to build a channel, but also to hone in my skills on the editing process, right? And you just can't do that without having things to work on. So I've been producing a lot of content, more than I will probably once I feel I'm producing better stuff. But so what would be the end prize here with this BizQuest contest, and how do people find you and find it? They can go to the batamaples.com website, right, and see there, but I'd like to hear from you too on it.
Yeah, we have it posted, of course, on our, we have a Facebook page, and like you mentioned, on the easiest way, I think, is to go to my website, batamaples.com, and there's a link right on the homepage.
Is it a financial prize or a?
There is a financial component, but there are also a few other gifts, I guess you call them, that some of the local businesses are providing, like some advertising and things like that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Really excellent. You used to have your daughters working with you lots.
Yeah. So Erica lives now in Montana, but she's very much into this. And Erica and Al have both kind of helped with the social media side of things, because that's not really my forte. Yeah. So I'm glad to have their help with that for sure.
It's hard for me to believe still she's in Montana. It's so cool that oh, look who wants to visit. Come up and say hi. This is my brand new friend I got this week. I've never had a dog like her. She's quite different, Uncle Frank.
Wow.
I decided to because the kids have a hard time saying native names, but she's a res dog that a real special elder friend gave to me. She has one of the pups and her daughter has the other. So we'll call her Tulu, the white dog. She's a husky, and she's got a white spirit. But the kids call her Mitchell Marner. And you announce it like she's coming into the stadium. Mitch Marner! And she runs up to you all excited, eh? She's fast and small and sweet and silly and very maneuverable. Brand new friend around here this week. Yeah. So you're gonna start boiling down on Monday again.
Hopefully we have a run on Monday. It's calling for plus weather, +5 or so, and so hopefully we'll get a good run on Monday and be able to make some more syrup.
I love the new jars.
Our new products this year. It's called a whiskey bottle, as you can probably guess. But anyway, that's something new I'm trying this year. And also. Here's my so just so you can see our logo.
I'll skip the whiskey bottle now that I'm a non-drinker finally. I'm sure all you Havens are happy to hear how sober I am. I'm sort of jealous because for the last 3 years I haven't had either Aunt Hilda send me a bottle of hers or Erica send me jars of yours. So I'll have to place an order in here. I do have some good quality maple syrup, but it's still the Kirkland distributors. It's not. It doesn't have the little logo on the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
That says.
Most of the stuff you get in the stores comes from Quebec. They have a totally different system there, but the stuff from Ontario we produce locally and market locally, and it's individually and lovingly packaged. So we'll send you some.
Can't wait. It's good stuff. And for anybody who hasn't had proper maple syrup out there on planet Earth, because there's going to be people across the planet who watch this, just tell them the difference between the corn syrup products and the maple syrup products, and why if they've never had good Canadian maple syrup, they really are missing out.
Yeah, a lot of people find it difficult to believe that all we do is collect sap, which is when you look at it and taste it, it's just clear like water, and then just boil it and just boil it and then boil it and boil it some more, and then it gets thicker and thicker, and you're left with maple syrup. So it's pure. There's nothing added. It's organic. Whereas the corn syrups and those kinds of things are certainly sweet, but they're not. Yeah, they're processed in a much more way than what maple syrup is. But you got to try it. It's got a very unique flavor, that's for sure.
It's been so good to see your face again. You know
You
how
too.
much you're starting to look like your dad?
No, you don't go there.
It's sort of uncanny. And my son Waylon, hey kids, want to come meet Uncle Frank quickly? And
Yeah,
my kids, they sort of resemble you, to be honest, a little bit. They have the Haveman features, although as they're starting to get a little older, they're having more of their mom's family features show up. But for the first 60 years of their lives, this is Willow, this is Uncle Frank, my mom's brother.
well, yep. I've seen you before when you were little. You were at my house a few times.
We have a picture of a Christmas dinner we got there. And
That's
here's
right.
Waylon,
Hello, Waylon. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Uncle Frank.
How old are you?
5.
5.
I'm
When I
5
see you now, I'm just seeing from your
I'm-
nose up, and it's like looking at
I'm
Dean.
8 now.
How are you? How old are you, Willow?
8.
8. Wow. Practically all grown up. That's amazing.
Well, the good thing is now they're getting a little bigger, and it'll be easy to take them home now for a summer.
Right.
So I don't know when that's going to happen, if it'll be,
Yep.
in the next couple of years, but we need to come spend some time back home.
Yep.
And I imagine if I orchestrated that, their mother would get on board and choose that time to go see her family too. So
Right. Yeah, that would work.
we're all due for a good family visit. And,
Good.
I miss it back home a lot. I'm more connected to all of you than anyone realizes. I've been out here silent for a long time, and I realized that it must have been what Opa felt like when he got to Canada in the 50s. That this isn't the way it's going to be forever. And then 25 years goes by, and you're
Yeah.
really, wow, I'm here now, and this is my life, and it's
Time keeps ticking, doesn't it? And fast. I believe it. I know.
and just the reality of it, that there's just no going back to that. Yet it's still, and yet so many aspects of my personalities are embodied in each one of my aunts and uncles, right? So I mean, some are easy to point out, like it's easy to compare me to Uncle Jack, but there's a lot of things about Aunt Marlene and you that I have a lot in common with, that people would be surprised to.
Well, and you've got the musical genes too. There's a few of us have that a little bit.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you, and take some videos and send them to me.
Okay.
We can string them together for follow up, and when you're near the end of your run, let's check back in and see how it went.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, we'll
Have a
talk
good
to you
one.
soon. Love you. Say hi to Karen.
All right, Will.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.